If you're a large company who purports to be for freedom of speech and against violence, maybe defund actual terrorist groups that use your platform to monetize violence and not a 5'6" blonde journalist with the wrong opinion.
In the morning.
What is popping, players? Welcome to another edition of Breaking Badger News. I'm your host, as always, your friendly neighborhood, John Deskind, Simpsons kin, Max Derrett. Sorry I haven't been around this past week. I know there was a lot of information that hasn't been covered. I was on vacation in the land of chocolate. Wait, no, is Germany the land of chocolate, or is it Austria that's the land of chocolate?
Both. Do you want me to answer that question?
Both.
Yes.
I would go with both.
Yeah.
Usually
sure.
I don't agree with Karen, but I'm going to go with both.
Definitely both.
Well, anyways, thanks for clarifying that for me. But I guess, you guys have already sort of introduced yourselves, but I'll just do it again. For formality's sake, one is obviously the lovely, the delightful Karen Strawn, and also my boss, who is also equally lovely and delightful,
I am
although
not.
somewhat...
Lies.
And don't call her boss, because when you call her boss, she just gets, so full of herself.
What?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, never do that again. Don't call her boss.
Okay, I was trying to be formal and trying to be kind. She actually beats me.
Supreme dictator for life, sure, but not boss.
Oh, that's better, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
at
more
least
accurate,
it's honest.
is it?
Yeah, it's honest. So.
Okay, you know what? I think I can hear the comments now. It's a minute and a half. Why aren't you doing the subject?
Get back on topic.
Okay. So, all right. So, Lawrence Southern, very popular YouTuber, very popular political commentator on YouTube nowadays. We're here to talk about her today. Over the past 24 hours, something interesting happened. Obviously, a lot of people are very familiar with the website Patreon. It's a website, well, in case you aren't, in case you live under a rock, it's a website that people use so that they can have their personal projects or anything else funded. There are some people that are successful enough to be able to live off of it, and Lawrence Southern was one of them. Until yesterday, apparently, Lawrence Southern's Patreon page got taken down. And we are here to discuss why this might have happened, whether it was right to have her Patreon page down or whether it was wrong. That's why we have Karen and Allison here today, who I think are going to be providing differing viewpoints. I'm not sure yet. We'll get to that in a second. But anyways, just to get into the key facts, Lauren received this following statement, which I will read for you verbatim from Patreon's Trust and Safety team, trying to explain why she was taken off of Patreon. Quote, "Hi, Lauren. My name is Max, no affiliation, and I am a member of the Trust and Safety team at Patreon. Here at Patreon, we believe in freedom of speech. We are creating a platform that empowers creators to share and debate ideas. When ideas cross into action, though, we sometimes must take a closer look at what our creators are doing with the funds they earn through Patreon. It appears that you are currently raising funds in order to take part in activities that are likely to cause loss of life. We have therefore decided to remove your page from Patreon and paid out your final balance of $95 to you. We understand that this will come as a disappointment. Please know that we have come to this decision after a long review process and will not consider an appeal. Thank you for your understanding." In response to these claims, Lauren has done several things in social media, but today we'll be focusing in particular on a video that she released less than 24 hours ago on her YouTube channel at the time of this recording. She says that she believes Patreon is citing the Defend Europe mission when saying that she is participating in dangerous, life-threatening activities. We'll get to more about this Defend Europe thing in a second. However, she is not giving this organization money and only wished to film their excursion. All of the money she receives on Patreon goes to the goals she had set up on her page. And also, she claims that nothing regarding the Defend Europe mission desires to cause loss of life. All the Defend Europe mission is they seek to uncover potential collusion between non-governmental organizations and human traffickers. They seek to sink empty, hazardous rafts so they can't be reused by people that are taking economic migrants from Africa to certain parts of Europe. And also, they answer distress calls from boats and transport them to the nearest port. Lauren wanted to cite some examples of Patreon's supposed ideological bias. For example, Patreon keeps pages up for groups like It's Going Down, that's the name of this organization, which is a radical leftist organization that promotes violence against police. They make $1,170 a month. Also, Patreon employee Aaron Ringenberg publicly has supported groups like Antifa, which is also, in case you guys live under a rock, a radical leftist organization that promotes violence as a means of achieving political gain. So, with that long introduction, Karen, can you please start with your particular thoughts on this? How did you come to this information? And do you believe that Lauren is in the right or Patreon?
Well, I think, honestly, if she's not going there to participate in the mission, but merely to document what they're doing, right? That is completely under the rubric of journalism. Vice could be going to do that, or NBC or ABC or Fox or any kind of investigative journalist might want to actually go and document what this group is about, what it does. And so if she was intending to go and cover what they do, then I don't see that she's done anything wrong. She's just doing her job as a journalist. And yes, she's an advocacy journalist. She's going to cover things that she feels passionately about. And I think that she really does feel passionately about the immigration problem and the migrant problem in Europe. In fact, I know she does. But, I think that this decision, if she was not raising funds for this mission, and even if she was raising funds for herself to go, specifically to document this, I think that falls underneath the umbrella of her stated job as a journalist. She's going there to cover a story. And so, I don't think that this decision is at all viable. And I also, like the whole idea, like would they cancel Vice's, if Vice.com or whatever Vice Media had a Patreon account, would they cancel it because they sometimes go and cover riots, right?
No.
No.
And I just wanted to, I'm going to interject here and say that this definition, this clarity on what's going on, I've been billed as having an opposing view, but in this case, if she went to cover what was going on, even if she is sympathetic to the people who are involved in this protest or whatever they're up to, then yes, absolutely Patreon is in the wrong. Definitely. Like, I totally agree with that. Most of my disagreement is what I think about the group itself. And but if she was just going there to cover it and she wasn't actually going to participate in any of the activities, then yes, 100% Patreon's wrong in this. And I would also like to add that they are currently in breach of Canadian consumer protection. So if Lauren, probably really unlikely for her to listen to this, but if she's hearing this, she should pursue court action against Patreon under breach of consumer protection. And there's been a recent court case that sets the precedent that they can't say, oh, we're an American company, therefore we don't have to abide by Canadian consumer protection. They absolutely do, because the injury crystallized, I believe she's out of Vancouver, right?
She was out of Vancouver. I'm not sure where she is now. Is she in the States now, Max?
Well, if she's in Canada, then if she's a Canadian citizen, she can sue under whatever local court that she currently lives in. If she's in America, I'm not sure about that, but she should pursue a court because this is unconscionable. Patreon is actually against they're acting against consumer protection. Now, personally, I'm not going to take the stance that Lauren Southern can't avail herself of contract protection that the government offers. I think contract protection, we want to keep that. That's a good thing the government offers. So I would highly recommend her to pursue this and look further into these court cases, because I think she has a good case. If she can prove that she absolutely was not actually funding any kind of violence and just going to cover, and furthermore that she's this victim of an ideological bias that Patreon is engaging in. And not just that, but Patreon's process is completely black box. They allow her no ability to appeal, no transparency, and no outside neutral party to adjudicate any kind of appeal. So she's got lots of grounds to actually oppose this in terms of a legal sense. And I would highly recommend that she do so. Now, my personal opinion about Defend Europe's modus operandi, as I understand it, is it completely irrelevant to whether or not I think Lauren or Patreon is correct in this instance. I mean, I can go into my personal opinion. I don't know if it's like I said, it's not relevant. I personally don't like what I'm hearing about what they do, but that's not relevant to my personal opinion about Lauren versus Patreon. So,
well, I imagine that what's going to happen in the coming days, I know Lauren is a very smart woman in some ways, and I'm sure that there are people all over her social media that are recommending exactly what you're recommending to her right now.
I don't know that they are, because most people wouldn't realize that they're able to sue in a Canadian court, sue an American company, and a large American company. Right. Like essentially when the decision that the precedent-setting decision just came down on the 21st of June. So it's like a month and a day ago. And it was, and here's the kicker, right? Because, from what it looks like, Patreon is actually in violation of its own terms of service here, right? In terms of, because a contract, as one-sided and boilerplate and non-negotiable as it is, as these terms of service are, right? Inherently, it's still an agreement between two parties. It is an agreement between Patreon to provide you with this service so long as you live up to your end of the bargain and the terms that you agree to. And they don't let you negotiate those terms, but as long as you abide by them, they are required to uphold their side of the bargain, right? And they're the ones setting the rules, but that doesn't mean they get to change them whenever. And any clause that says, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone at any time for any reason whatsoever or no reason at all. Those are often included in contracts like this, but they don't stand up in any court of law, right? Because they're just not legally enforceable, right? If that was something that was legally enforceable, you could go into McDonald's, pay for your burger, and then they could just kick you out for no reason, take your money, and have you arrested when you complain, right, for disturbing the peace. So, but what I found interesting about this particular precedent is that it is a Canadian woman in BC who has just won the right to sue Facebook in a British Columbia court over a violation of privacy that was actually something she agreed to as part of the terms of service. So Facebook was not even in violation of their part of the agreement, but the Canadian court, the Supreme Court, took the position that the difference in bargaining power and the non-negotiability of the contract itself is enough to actually put more power, judicial power, power of redress in the hands of the plaintiff, being an individual in this case, versus Facebook. So they are actually allowing her to sue in a Canadian court based on something that wasn't even a violation of the contract that she signed with Facebook, right? So this is clearly a violation of the contract that Lauren Southern signed with Patreon. It is clearly a violation on Patreon's part. So I would suggest that she take advantage of this precedent and sue in a Canadian court, whichever, Toronto or BC, whichever has the best consumer protection laws, right? And go ahead and do that, because she's got a better case than this woman does against Facebook, for sure.
Well, yeah, definitely. When I was originally hearing this, some of the conversation that I was listening to or reading was suggesting that Lauren Southern was actually going to go there and take part in the activities of Defend Europe. So in that context, I would have said that Patreon had a point if they're talking about a creator that is going into a situation. And I haven't read the exact terms of service, but intercept on the water is actually a very dangerous situation that can lead to loss of life. In fact, in northern Saskatchewan on Diefenbaker Lake a few days ago, we had storm swells of just like 6 to 7 feet, and two men lost their lives on the lake because of a high wind. So anything on the water can be very, very, very dangerous, especially when you're talking about any kind of aggressive, potentially aggressive action like boat interception.
Well, yeah, and intercepting people who don't want to be intercepted.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Patreon would have had a point that there is a high degree of a potential loss of life with this with this kind of an engagement. So they might even have a point that they don't want to pay for Lauren Southern because Lauren Southern is putting herself in danger as a correspondent. But in that case, I think that they would have to prove that she was advertising it and she was taking money to do so, which in those terms, I haven't looked at the evidence for it against. I think that she even if she did, she might still have a strong case under Canadian consumer protection. And go ahead and say that, you know, the unequal bargaining position that Patreon has as basically being in a monopoly position means that she can give no legitimate consent, to Patreon terms of service. So I even if she did violate their terms of service, I say go for it, because Patreon needs to know that they need to make their appeal process transparent. And they need to start looking at maybe having neutral parties declare on their appeals. Like in highly politically charged situations, maybe they could get something like an appeals court that includes people of different political persuasions to look at the evidence. But neutral parties, people who are unaffiliated with Patreon. But like I said, even if Lauren has quote unquote violated their terms of service, and I know that they're probably intentionally vague, I would say that she should still go for it, and it would be of a benefit to everyone who is on Patreon.
Well, because what I think too is interesting is this whole idea that like the only life that they could possibly say in a court of law that they are worried about is Lauren's life, because all she's doing is going and covering what's already going on. If she doesn't go, right, these people are still going to be doing what they're doing, right? So there's no contribution to any kind of loss of life or risk to life by Lauren going, other than maybe her own life, right? Whereas with these radical left-wing groups, they are advocating political violence. They are actually raising money to engage in riots and protests and things that actually have caused injury and, resulted in life-threatening situations. And Aaron, what's his pickle, said on Twitter, oh, well, this is necessary in the age of Trump, yeah, so what? But, these people are good to have around in the age of Trump, right? And it's it's so fucking political. It's like you're literally allowing an organization that engages in political violence to raise funds on your platform. That's funding terrorism, because that's what political violence is. That's what violence for the purpose of political goals, pursuing political goals, is. It's called terrorism, right?
But Karen, Antifa hasn't actually killed anybody. They just, set fire to shit and bash in windows. At least I don't think they've ever killed anybody. Well,
they've stabbed people, and they've kicked the shit out of people. They put some poor freaking guy in a coma for days, right, at Berkeley. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time before somebody dies.
Okay,
but it just hasn't happened yet, so he has those grounds.
To clarify the issues that I have with Protect Europe. Is that what they're called? Protect Europe?
Defend Europe.
Defend Europe. Sorry. It's to be honest, I think that unless they're invited, what I have read is their mission statement is that they provide support for the Libyan Coast Guard. And it's like, well, civilians inviting themselves into a military operation just sort of rubs me the wrong way, for one. And the other thing that I read was their mission was to essentially chant slogans, anti-immigration, anti-economic refugee or whatever, or economic migrant, and also hold up signs. And it's like, for me, civilians going into a place that's already highly charged, because this is going to be difficult, no doubt, for the Libyan Coast Guard to intercept these individuals and safely return them to their point of origin. To go into a situation like that and make it more highly charged is, in my opinion, I can't get behind that. I can't agree with that.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. If they're invited, if the Libyan Coast Guard says, hey, yeah, come run interference for us and help us out, then that's fine as far as I'm concerned. But getting into that as a civilian organization and also increasing because the thing is, when you're in a conflict situation, the last thing you need is people coming in and making it more emotional, more highly charged, more difficult to do your job. So that's the problem that I have with their stated. Now, if they're not doing that, then, Godspeed, but that's all I've heard about what they are doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of different legal and logistical conundrums that are involved with this situation. But anyways, we got to sort of wrap this whole thing up. We've gone over 20 minutes. Guys, make sure you message what we have talked about today to Lauren, just to let her know about her legal options, just in case, maybe other people haven't informed her of this yet, because this could actually become an evolving thing and can actually lead to some positive outcomes down the line, at least when it comes to Patreon and, just the whole culture war, as some people might want to say. If you liked what we talked about in this particular video, if you have any agreements or disagreements, make sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, because we do regular videos throughout the week, please subscribe. I want to thank Karen and Allison for doing this with me on such short notice and giving their in-depth thoughts, especially in regards to the legal stuff. And until next time, have a lovely, lovely day.